thank everybody that came to the Blue Crew event in July and tell you that we're doing it again in August and September and October and November, and we're just going to keep doing it because it's time we let them know we were here. We were not bothered, we were not accosted. It was a very pleasant evening, and please, if you haven't got anything to do on August 24th, come play with us. Next. And now I'd like to introduce Adam Hattersley, a former naval officer who, let's see, he's also an author. Adam spent 8 years as a nuclear submarine officer in the Navy, protecting our country at home and abroad. He moved to Florida in 2009, where he worked for a Fortune 500 company for 7 years, and he learned how to lead a team responsible for training and managing hundreds of skilled technicians all over the world. In 2016, Adam and his wife opened a small business, helping other small businesses promote themselves. He has spent his life with honor and integrity, always putting country before party, and believes our leaders in public office should be held to that same standard. In 2018, after more than a decade as a registered independent, Adam sought and won a seat in the Florida legislature as a Democrat. Focusing on the issues that matter to people across our communities, Adam served in the Florida House of Representatives, where he was committed to lowering healthcare costs, honoring the service that veterans have made to our country, and protecting public education. Adam, I'm so happy you're here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. It's bright. I know Sue sent out that I was going to be talking about property insurance and some things that have been going on in the legislature, but when I was putting some slides together, I decided to go a bit off script. So I hope you don't mind. We can definitely talk about some property insurance issues and some things that have been going on in the legislature and in the state of Florida, like, for example, how now apparently slavery was not all bad. It's just unbelievable. But instead, I want to talk about, if you go to the next slide, the Democratic disaster of 2022. Have you guys done a big deep dive or deconstruction in the last election yet?
Yeah.
No? Yes? Some? Well, Bob has. But as a lot of you know, hopefully, I was on the statewide ticket last cycle as the Democratic nominee for Chief Financial Officer. And I came to the villages a few times. I've spoken in front of this group before. I did it at a couple homes with the Sumter County TVDC. I think 5 or 6 times I came to the villages. But today I want to talk a bit about what we can do to recover from this. So this first slide, I want just a couple of things here. This popular vote and this turnout. That -9 means from the last midterm election, we had an overall turnout 9% less. But if you dig into the numbers a little bit, Republicans had the same turnout in 2022 as they did in 2018. That entire 9% was made up solely by Democrats. Over 1 million Democrats that voted in 2018 did not vote in 2022. We can't win with that. Who knows about the approximate turnout of a traditional midterm election? Not including 2018, but 2014, 2010. About between 45-50%. In 2018, everybody was expecting a big turnout because it was a referendum on Trump, right? Democrats turned out about 65-66% here in Florida, so did Republicans. In 2018, Democrats relaxed. We went back to a 2014, 2010, 2006 kind of turnout. We turned out about 51%. Republicans stayed at 66%. That is their new normal. We have to step up to meet that new normal. 1 million Democrats did not vote in 2022 that did in 2018. And this hurts right here, that 40% to 59.4. Just as a side note, a little puff myself up a little bit. I did end up beating Charlie a little bit, but that's okay. Let's go to the next slide. People always ask, where do we go from here? What's next? How do we recover from this? What congressional district are we in? 11. Who's your congressman? Daniel Webster. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, wait, keep going. Daniel Webster. Here we are. Covers all of Sumter County. This is going to be an interesting one. Who ran against Daniel Webster this past cycle? Shantae Munz. Who's met Shantae Munz? Okay, a few of you. Who voted for Shantae Munz? Okay, hopefully all of you. Let's go to the next slide. We'll skip this one. I prepared this for a different group, by the way. So this is what happened in CD 11 this past cycle. Daniel Webster raised $766,000, which, believe it or not, for a congressional race is not that much. But Shantae only raised $21,000. This is the loss percentage over the last 3 election cycles, 2018, 2020, 2022. Here's the referendum on Trump, 13.5%. Then the presidential, about 11%. And then the disaster, 27.5%. Most of that 17 points comes from that extra Republican turnout. There are 15% additional turnout compared to ours. Most of it's right there. But I hate to say it, I love Shantae, 36.5 to $1. That's gonna be tough. Now, this is gonna hurt a little bit. And I hope you don't mind if I swear a little bit. I was thinking. This is gonna hurt a little bit. Do you know that Daniel Webster's in a serious primary right now? You know, Daniel Webster, he's a reliable Republican soldier, but he's not super crazy. Let's admit, he's not. A guy who's running against him was elected the same year that I was to the Florida legislature. His name is Anthony Sabatini. Who's heard of this guy? Anthony Sabatini calls Ron DeSantis a rhino. I'm not kidding. He's to the right of fascism. And he has a serious national following. He ran for Congress last cycle. He lost in the primary, I believe, to Corey Mills in CD 7. But he raised over $1.3 million. And he's already on that path now. He's raised nearly $250,000, already challenging Daniel Webster. Who votes in primaries? Okay, no, hands are good. But like ideologically, who votes in primaries? The serious Dems and the crazy Republicans. And he's on the crazy Republican side. So these primaries are geared to the fringes of both parties, us included. And his brand of calling Ron DeSantis a rhino appeals to the people who try to beat me up for wearing this t-shirt here in the Villages. Okay? It appeals to those third-grade bullies who are now allowed to be third-grade bullies again because Donald Trump let them be a third-grade bully again. But that's what's going on right here in CD 11. So I hate to say it, but in that Republican primary, tell your friends vote for Daniel Webster. Who's running for CD 11 on our side right now? Nobody. Anybody hear of anyone? Give them my phone number, I'll talk them up. I've done a lot of candidate recruiting. All right, let's go to the next slide. So where do we go from here? When the state redistricted in 2020, for the 2022 elections, they redrew not only the state house, not only the state senate, but the congressional districts. These are in the courts, by the way, being challenged. So as I'm sure you all know, they gerrymandered the living crap out of Florida. They had 20 Republican seats to 8 Democratic seats. They destroyed Al Lawson's protected seat, so now these maps are unconstitutional. They destroyed Val Deming's protected seat, that stayed Democratic. But in reality, there is one congressional seat that we have a chance to flip right now. And it's circled in, I have 2 targets for 2024. Any number that's above 0 is a Democratic gap. This is how much we've lost these elections by, 2018, 2020, 2022. Anything below 0, we should have won.
And these numbers are based on how the new districts would have voted with old precinct information. So that means if we had the districts as they're currently drawn, but in 2018, with that voter turnout, we would have won CD 27 and new CD 28. We can win these seats. We can flip these seats. Where did this difference happen? Turnout. So we won, or we would have won 27 by about 14 points in 2018. We would have basically tied in 2020. The turnout was even. Here's our 14-point turnout loss. We can win this seat. And not only are Floridians, but the DCCC is targeting CD 27 this year. We can flip that seat. Now the DCCC, after the 2018 election, I was in the legislature. I was recruited very heavily, and I ran for U.S. Congress, so I have a lot of experience with the DCCC. Don't believe the DCCC. That was supposed to be funny. But they're targeting not only CD 27, but they're targeting CD 13, which is Charlie Crist's old seat, which Anna Paulina Luna, who is out there, has won that seat. But as you can see, even though they're targeting it, this is not the best seat to target. We would have lost it. Charlie would have lost it in 2018. We would have lost it in 2020. There's a reason Charlie ran for governor instead of running for Congress again, because he knew he would have lost. Strangely enough, CD 15, where I live, is the closest next seat we have in the state of Florida. We don't have a candidate yet either. But we need to look long term, just like the Republicans do. It took them 20 years, starting in around 1983, to flip the Florida legislature. And they stayed on that long-term plan by looking at these seats long-term. So we need to target these two seats. We'll go with the D-Trip, 27 and 13 for 2024. Then we have to look what's next. 2026, we have CD 7 and CD 15. Corey Mills is the new congressman in CD 7. That used to be Stephanie Murphy's district until they gerrymandered the crap out of it. But this difference is 4%. We have 3.5 years to persuade, register, and get people on our side in CD 7 to be able to flip that seat. CD 15, Laurel Lee, she's actually a lovely person. Gotta call a spade a spade. She's lovely. But we can take that seat. How that was drawn in 2018, we lost it by about 1.5 points. That's it. We need to register, we need to persuade. That's where we go. And then from there, 2026, what's next? CD 28, down there in Monroe County and southern Miami-Dade County. We should have won that, and we would have won that, how I voted in 2018, by 6%. And then CD 4, which is Al Lawson's old seat. We'll see how the courts redraw that, because they will. But we have to look ahead, just like the Republicans do. And we can't be afraid to use some of these election tactics. I think I talked about it last time I was here. Republicans message to emotion and fear. And we message to intelligence and logic. And in the back of our lizard brains, emotion and fear is going to win every time. They're coming for your guns. Abortion's murder. They're taking your jobs. And we're on the defense every single time. And we have to go on the offensive. Like I said, I might get beat up wearing this t-shirt here in the Villages. It says Pro Road 1973. Thank you. But how many people are nervous about wearing a t-shirt like this in the Villages? Do you think your neighbor is nervous about wearing his MAGA hat anywhere? I've seen him at Disney World. We have to be as brave and as brazen as they are. We have to have that kind of courage to stand up to these third-grade bullies, because that's all they are. A friend of mine who's a consultant in DC was flying from Virginia to Albuquerque to meet the president and fly back on Air Force One. On the flight from Virginia to Albuquerque, the pilot came on and said, "Please respect anyone else who's wearing a mask. It is their choice." And she told us a guy in a MAGA hat stood up and said, "Yeah, but they're all stupid." That's just that third grade bully mentality. Do you think he was afraid to say that wearing that hat? No. We cannot be afraid to have that same courage and bravery. However stupid it is on their side. We have to do the same thing. We have to wear these pro-road t-shirts in places that might be scary too. We have to show them we're not afraid. Who's ever seen this movie? I think it was like 1989. It's called The Substitute with Tom Berenger. Yeah. Ernie Hudson was in it from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But Ernie Hudson says, in that movie, he says, power perceived is power achieved. And right now, that MAGA guy on that airplane, he's screaming, yeah, but those people wearing masks are stupid, and being brazen wearing his hat. That is seen as strength. And us backpedaling and defending and not wearing our Biden-Harris t-shirts is shown as weakness. Power perceived is power achieved. How do you think a lot of these lower income Republicans see what's happening? They see Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis yelling at the press and being bullies and being aggressive. And they see us saying, yeah, we just want health care. And we look weak. Power perceived is power achieved. All right, let's go to the next slide. Florida State Senate, Senate District 11. Good old Blazing Malia. He was the chair of the State Affairs Committee when I was on that committee in the legislature. Former chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. We didn't have a Democratic candidate against him last year. There was a Green Party candidate who earned 25% of the vote for just having a pulse. Who do we have running against him right now? Bob, you can't answer because you already know. Nobody. You know, if anybody wants to try, give him my number. I'll talk him up. You go to the next slide, please. Here's the whole state and the gaps. We'll skip this one. Here's specifically this Senate district. Look at this spending gap, 45.5 to 1. Blaze raised $182,000, which again is not a lot for a state Senate race. And the Green Party candidate, only raised $4 grand. But here's the trend. 2018, yeah, we got green. 2020, we got green. 2022, we didn't even have a candidate, but the Green Party candidate, still got 25% of the vote. Now, I'm not saying we need to win Senate District 11. But Joe Biden needs us to win it a little bit, or lose it by a little bit less. That's one of the reasons in my last race, I visited, I think, 63 out of the 67 counties in Florida. I went to places that some of the Democrats in the Panhandle, in Franklin County, they said I was the first Democrat to show up there since Long Chocolates in the 90s. And I knew I couldn't win Franklin County, but I just needed to lose it by a little bit less. Because typically, except last year, Florida is won and lost in the margins. Instead of losing Franklin County 80 to 20, if I made it 70-30, that extra little 10% there multiplied by 67 counties, who knows how much Bill Nelson lost by in 2018? 10,033 votes out of over 8.5 million counts. 5 little Franklin counties in those margins, and he is still our U.S. Senator instead of Rick Scott. That's it. We just have to think outside the box and campaign a little differently. Let's go to our next slide. Thinking ahead, thinking of the future. How do we flip some of these seats in the Senate? You have to focus down the road. Right now, just half the Senate is up at a time. Odd numbers are up this cycle. Looks like we have one shot to flip a seat. SD3. That's in the Panhandles. It's Tallahassee. It's been Democratic forever until 2022. 2018, how strong we would have won? 6 points. 2020, by three or so. Then we just lost it by 6. We were outvoted by 14%. If we just vote with the same frequency as Republicans do, we take that seat back. We're 3 seats away from breaking a supermajority in the Senate. We need this seat. Last cycle, Lorraine Osley, who I was in the legislature with, she ran for that seat, raised something like $2 million, and got beat by an FSU football player. And we don't have a serious candidate there yet. We need to find people to run for these races.
Last cycle, I want to say it was like 35 state house races. We didn't even have a candidate. How are we going to win with that? So that's 2024. Looking back, looking down at 2026, we got SD 10, 14, 18, and 38, 3 of which we should have won in every historical past election. Republicans voted 14% more than we did. It's not only that, but believe it or not, independents fell the Republican side by like between 6 and 8 points this past election cycle. Power perceived is power achieved. When you get inundated with nothing but Ron DeSantis 24/7 on every news station, it looks like he's doing a great job. No, he's not. Then 2026, we can keep looking down the future, maybe SD40. We didn't have a candidate there last cycle, that's why there's no data. And by the way, these numbers up top, these are our voter registrations in these districts. We have a 43,000 registered voter advantage in Senate District 3, and we lost that seat. What in the hell is that happening? We're on par right here in SD 10. We have an advantage in SD 14. We have an slight disadvantage here in 18. This is a tough seat. A 20,000 advantage in 38. These are seats that we should win. We just have to get out there and show people that we have that same courage, that we're not afraid to wear a pro-road t-shirt in the villages. Let's go to the next slide. State House. State House District 52, HC 52, Rep. John Temple. Has anybody ever heard of this guy? I had to look it up. I have no idea who this guy is. He was probably one of the quiet, just soldier backbenchers who just does whatever the speaker tells him. Let's go to the next slide. Let's skip this one. That's the entire legislature. Here we are in House District 52. We were outspent 7.5 to 1 last cycle. Who knows who ran last time for HC 52? No, you don't get an answer. You already know it. Anybody? Ash Marble. That's right. He only raised about $27,000 compared to $200,000 for John Temple, who I've never met him, but I'm sure has the personality of a cardboard box. But he happens to have an R by his name and has the support of the Republican Party of Florida. So that means every business in the area, every lobbyist in Tallahassee, every PC, they're all going to donate to him because the Republicans are the majority and he's the incumbent. We have to fight that kind of institutionalized thinking if we're going to change any of these seats. Now, are we going to win House District 52? The best we did in 2020, we lost it by 37. Honestly, probably not. But instead of losing by 37, if we lose it by 27, that extra 3,000 votes can help Joe Biden keep the White House. Can help whoever is going to run against Rick Scott beat Rick Scott. Let's go to the next one. So looking in the future, this one is going to be I'm not going to say the most depressing, but maybe the most disappointing. Take a guess. There's 3 different slides for this. How many state house seats, as they are drawn now using historical data, how many should we have won that we lost this past year? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 10. 10. We're in a super minority right now in the state legislature. We only have 35 representatives. This would have put us at 45 and would have broken that supermajority. So we have House District 35, 36, 37, 38 that are all ready to flip here in 2024. Especially 37. This was Carlos Guillermo-Smith. 15 points he won by, 14 points he won by 2018, or would have won by how these districts are drawn. 12 points in 2020, and he lost it by 4 with a 14-point registered voter disadvantage. Or excuse me, not registered voter, turnout disadvantage. He has, 5,000 registered voter advantage in that district. These are seats that we should win. Now there's one specifically here, 35, that I want to talk about. Who knows, except Bob, I know you know. We already talked about it. What's happening in House District 35 right now? There's a special election. The current representative, Fred Hawkins, was
gifted with the president of a local community college. So he resigned. There's 2 special elections right now. Another one is 118, which is traditionally a Republican seat, went Republican by 30 points last cycle. So they're holding that special election in like 2 months. But the HD 35 one, which we have a chance to win, they're not gonna hold till January. So whatever representative we get won't be sworn in until partway through the legislative session. If we win, these are gonna be all about turnout. But that's just a little political dig that Ron DeSantis just likes to do to Democrats in Florida. HD 35, we should win. This is a focus of the Florida Democratic Party. It's a focus of almost every single Democratic group in the state. Who is happy when Donna Deegan won the mayor's race in Jacksonville? Hopefully everybody. The first time, it was the largest city in the country with a Republican mayor until Donna won a couple months ago. We need to pull a Donna Deegan on HD 35. Right now, there's a 3-candidate primary, and whoever your favorite is, I don't care. We talk about it. We can work on registering voters, Democratic voters in HD 35. We can get people re-enrolled in vote by mail in HD 35. But as soon as that primary is done, which I think is in December or November-ish, November, the primary for HD 35. Whenever that primary is done, we need to Donna Deegan the crap out of HD 35. And what I mean by that is, we need to get every Democrat in the state calling people in HD 35, texting people in HD 35, emailing people in HD 35, driving to HD 35, and canvassing for whoever our nominee is, giving money to the candidate in HD 35. This is going to be the only game in town from December through January of 2024, and we can take this seat. And a special election is all about turnout. That's why we could win HD 118. It's all about turnout. You know, there could be 1 million registered Democrats and 27 registered Republicans, but if the Republicans are the only ones who show up, you get a Republican. We have a chance to take this seat early and have an incumbent going into 2024. All right, let's go to the next slide. So here's 2 of 3. More districts to focus on for 2024. We have HD 45, HD 65, HD, I can't even see it over there, I think 93, all of which we would have won in the past 2 cycles, all of which we lost by less than 7 points with a 14-point voter turnout disadvantage. Let's go to the next one. 100, 106, 113. We already have a great candidate in 113. 106, who's heard, he's been in the news a bit lately, Fabian Basavi, I think is how you say his name. Nobody? So he won HD 106 by 242 votes in a district that we have an 11,000 registered voter advantage. And he's been in the news lately. One, he got his start on an MTV reality TV show. And then he's now getting sued by his past legislative aide for sexual assault. And he's been in the news a lot. Apparently he's even a pariah amongst the Republicans. But we can absolutely win these seats. But how do we do that? We Donna Deegan the crap out of it. We call and we register voters. We call and get people re-enrolled and vote by mail. We text them, we email them. We go to these places and canvass for them. Canvassing, knocking on doors has been shown to be the best, by far, method of persuading people not only to vote, but to vote for your candidate. It's been shown to change elections upwards of 7%. And more importantly, you have to give money to these candidates. I know that sucks and that hurts, but you know, it takes your time, your talent, your treasure. And if you don't have the time, if you don't have, you know, the volunteering, or you don't have some certain skills, you can give some of that treasure. Val Demings would talk about that all the time. She had all the treasure. Oh my gosh, she spent $75 million. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know the Republicans are not giving up. You know they are always going to show up. They're always going to try. They're always going to give money. And what's the famous quote? Evil wins when good people do nothing. We have to show up. 14-point registered or voter turnout disadvantage. HD 52, who do we have running against John Temple right now? Nobody. If you know anybody, give them my number. I'll have them give me a call. I'll talk them up. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, that's all we got. I wanted to keep it relatively short, just to show you that what the news is saying, what they started saying all the way back in 2019, 2021. Florida's a lost cause. Who heard that on the news? Florida's a lost cause. Why are the Democrats even running? Florida's a lost cause. We're not a lost cause. We just have to convince people that participation is key. It's what's gonna get us back to that table. You know, they say if you don't show up at the table, you're not gonna have a voice. Or you have to be in the room. What is it from Hamilton? Like, I want to be in the room where the decisions are made. If everyone just stays home and doesn't pay attention, or it's a foregone conclusion, we're gonna lose. No. Are we gonna win HB 52? Honestly, no. But can the participation from groups like this turn a statewide election? Absolutely. 10,033 votes, and we still have Bill Nelson instead of Rick Scott. 10,033 votes. How many people are in here? 200? 300? 200? You think each of you could have gotten 2 of your friends who did not vote in 2018 and come to the polls? All right, so that's 400 more. We replicate that in 10 different counties, we win. That's it, that's all it takes. And we can't be afraid to use some of these tactics. We can't be afraid to use some of that bravado that the Republicans have fallen back on. We can't be afraid to wear our Villages Democratic Club t-shirts when we go to the local store. We can't be afraid of that jackass in the giant pickup truck wearing his MAGA hat, driving around saying wearing your mask is stupid. We can't be afraid of that. We have to push back. Power perceived is power achieved. I do want to say thank you guys so much for having me. I'd love to take some questions. By the way, I wrote a book about my state house race. I flipped the district by 12 points with almost no money and no help from the state and county. I wrote it specifically for people who want to get involved in some of these local campaigns, and especially for candidates to get an idea of what to expect. What is canvassing? What is call time? What is phone banking? How do I register? What to expect? So I have books over there. But yeah, I'd love to take some questions. I really appreciate you guys having me on. We've got a question back here in row 7. I don't know what row that is.
I would like to have a conversation more about what we could do better than what we did last time.
Yes.
Okay. The question was, what can we do better?
No, that's not a question. I have some comments.
Oh, comments. I think we have a microphone over here. A microphone coming to you. Or if you want to come up to the stage, I got one. But there's a lot of things we can do better.
Okay.
We have to push outside of your comfort zones. If you're comfortable text banking, try phone banking. If you're comfortable phone banking, try canvassing and knocking on doors. We have to push outside our comfort zones.
Adam, while she's coming up and getting the mic, let me continue the Hamilton analogy. This is the room where it happened. Please congratulate Sumter County, who led 2020 in voter turnout, both for the general and the primary. So. Can we do better? Absolutely. Will we do better? Absolutely. Well, we did a great job.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that we didn't, but I do think that we always need to look at what we can do better. And I had some real specific things that I wanted to comment on. And I would like some feedback. Maybe I'm just totally off the ball here. So I just want to run a few things by people. One of the things that I noticed was that the more money I gave, the more emails I got. And some of those emails from Democrats, I'm wondering who is overseeing them. I'm wondering if candidates are overseeing them. This is a comment that I got more than once when I didn't respond with money. And the comment was, Barbara, Obama would really be disappointed in you. You know what I wanted to do? Hey, did I give you any money to you yet? Well, you send it back. That kind of stuff just, I keep encountering. And what I'm wondering is are the candidates, is there any mechanism where the candidates can follow up on what these people are saying? Because that was actually the worst comment I got.
Yeah, I
But
would
it
never
wasn't
say
the
that to
only-
somebody, that's horrible.
Well, it is horrible. It is horrible. And how many people does that turn off and keep away from churches? Yeah.
I can answer that, like, about the email stuff if you want.
Well, yeah, if you've got, I would like to hear
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I have one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah.
So regarding the email, getting those emails sucks, doesn't it? So whenever you give money to a candidate, you have to put in your name, your address. It's for legal, financial filing purposes. But that puts you into a national database. This person has now given money to candidate X. Now, any other candidate in the entire country has access to these databases, and more importantly, they hire consultants who have extreme access and skill at manipulating these databases. And they say, oh, wait a minute, my candidate Y, who has a similar background to candidate X, let me email or phone call or text everybody who gave to candidate X and see if they'll give to my guy too. And has anybody ever run for office before in here? A couple of people? So you know the time constraints on a candidate. There's always more money eventually, but there's never enough time. Time is the only resource that you are limited by, in all intents and purposes, in a campaign. So 90% of our activities are focused on raising money. And so a lot of these things like email, we have to contract out. People have digital fundraising companies. I have one. They handle email, text. We did direct messages on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, trying to get people to contribute. Now, whoever's saying that email like Obama would be disappointed, I would be turned off by that too, or like, yeah, no, that's extreme and that should not happen. And whoever did that, like, I almost want to apologize on their behalf because that's just horrendous. But getting on those lists, it's become, I don't want to say necessary evil, but there's that unsubscribe button that I use all the time because I'm on every single list. But when it comes down to it, on large campaigns, like a statewide campaign or a congressional campaign, in a congressional primary, in a district that had never raised more than $350,000, I raised close to $800,000. And about 20% of that came off of email and text. So however much it is annoying, and as candidates, we always kind of like cringe at it, even though we very rarely even look at the emails before they go out, almost never. It has been shown to be so effective that we just dump these emails out there. You can email 1 million people like that. And if 1% of 1% gives $10, you just raise $1,000. And it is no effort to me. So unfortunately, it's one of those things that's probably going to stay in these political campaigns. Don't be afraid to unsubscribe. And if they tell you that Obama's disappointed and you either email them back or tell them to go shut the hell up, it's worth it out. Because that's just absurd. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to stick around because it's shown it's been effective. For whoever it does turn off, it has gotten more returns. So the cost to debt benefit, whatever you want to call it, is still positive. So until that turns, it's going to keep happening. Yes?
I don't need a microphone. I just moved here from Ohio and,
Go Ohio!
yeah. A lot of my friends did that. And so we did change things in Licking County. Licking County was red, red, red. Now, the other day, they voted for this. And so it can be done. My problem is, I hear from people, oh, I don't want to vote. They're all the same. They're all, crooks, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm a very active Democrat. I'm not a nice Democrat. I'm glad to hear that. We need to fight. We need to stop being timid. We are the people who've changed this country for the good. Labor unions, children not working in factories, Medicare, Social Security,
Weekends,
all that is
40 hours
us.
It's all us.
That's us. And if we did that before, we can do it again.
Just lost that. It's great. And you say Ohio, and I went to
This is,
I forgive you, my child.
oh. Yes, we
Well, I'd like to wish you could stay. So we got-
at least in the Big Ten.
That's true. You talked a lot about looking toward the future. I'd like to know what's yours.
Oh.
And I'd like to suggest that perhaps you consider running against Senator Scott.
Very flattering, thank you. I mean, I don't know if I can officially announce, but I will not be taking the dive against Rick Scott, but thank you, that is very flattering. I'm not sure what the future holds for me. According to my wife, I need to get a job now, because a statewide campaign, that's all you can do is campaign. But I'm not sure what's going to hold, what the future holds for me here in Florida. Like I said, CD 15, if we vote like we did in 2018, that's a 2% race. If I was going to look anywhere, it would be in that area, but I don't know if I'm ready to jump into another. I mean, I run 3 campaigns in a row, 1 win and 2 pains. So I'll keep everybody posted on my plans, but thank you. I just remembered what she was talking about, about not being timid, and people when they say both parties are the same. Bullshit. One party is banning books, ostracizing children, and pushing, and how slavery is so bad. And we're trying to give people health care. They could not be more different. One's trying to control women's bodies, and we're just trying to live up to the Constitution. There's a huge, huge difference. So if anyone tells you both parties are the same, no, call them on their bullshit. Call them on it. This crap that Ron DeSantis has been doing, removing duly elected officials.
Slitting throats.
Yeah, he said slitting throats where woke goes to die. Define woke for me. Empathy, okay. Ragging on Disney because they had a political, they used their First Amendment rights and had a political disagreement with him. That's not even conservatism, let alone American. They're vastly different two parties. Yes, you had a question.
The one thing the Republicans do really well is anger, okay? And anger is a part of passion. And so my question is, we want to get these people out to vote. We have to get the passion. We have to reach them where they're not going to say, I'm not going to go vote because my vote doesn't matter. And no, they have to realize that their vote matters. So how do we incite the passion? Because you're preaching to the people in here that are already passionate. We need to reach the other ones.
That's a great question. And if I had like a solid, this is how we do it answer, we would have won in 2022. We have to figure out how to combat Fox News and crazy Republican propaganda that's on, for example, my parents' TV 24/7. I know, it hurts. And I don't know how to do that without Koch brothers of our own. If we had some altruistic billionaires who are ready to start a liberal news network and not be afraid of calling it that, like OAN, the conservative news, which isn't even news, the conservative this, the right-wing this, but we're so afraid and timid, which we've talked about before, to step out and show people our true thoughts or our true colors. Again, why are these MAGAs so emboldened and brazen to go to Disneyland wearing a Trump 24 shirt and Make America Great Again hat? But I might get beaten up today in the Village wearing this t-shirt if I go to McDonald's on my way home. We have to have that kind of courage, that kind of bravery, and that kind of brazen attitude to show people that we are right, because we are. And history will show that we are right. History has shown we are right. I'm really afraid of this. We might be on a tipping point similar to Germany in 1933. We are getting dangerously close. How many veterans do I have in here besides me? Does that scare the rest of you like it does me? I spent a year in Iraq, and it terrifies me to see what's becoming here in the United States, what's happening.
What happened on January 6th, that was unthinkable for 200 years. Unthinkable. And now we have, I saw it with Al Qaeda, my friends in Afghanistan saw it. It's this sense of belonging from underprivileged men, mostly. We call them military-aged males. They get a sense of power, a sense of belonging, of being that third-grade bully. And it's how the Taliban took over Afghanistan. And it's happening here. And it happened in Germany in the 30s. And it's why my mother's neighborhood growing up, she had neighbors with tattoos on their arms. Her maiden name is Ginsburg, by the way. And I'm terrified of that happening here. And we have to tell people that. And we have to have that courage and that brazenness to do it. Yes?
Adam, you have said that participation is key, and I want everyone in this room to know that we have a program here in Sumter County that Chris Anderson started that's called the Neighborhood Links Program. And I would like all of you to come and see either me or Chris or Kim over there, because we are the coordinators of this program. What you do is you go and talk to your neighbors, just your neighbors. Most of the neighbors don't even know that the person in the house next to them is a Democrat. This is how we get people to vote. Please see us afterward.
Yes.
It said that Republicans use fear. You said that Republicans use fear to motivate their base. You just mentioned the possibility of losing our democracy. Why can't we use that to motivate our base?
There's nothing saying that we can't. We can absolutely use that. Yeah. Yes.
Adam, we know how the right wing favors big business. Is there a deep dive that you can share with us, and perhaps you don't, but I'm interested to see the funding in Florida. Does it come from big business for the Republicans, and how can we match that?
It does come from big business. I can't remember what the numbers were, but they were extremely egregious. I remember when I ran for the State House, I keep like a running tally of how much was raised between me and my opponent. I think I was the winning candidate with the lowest fundraising total of any contested race in Florida. But I had something like, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 individual donors. And even though my opponent raised 3.5 times or 4 times more than I did, he had like less than a quarter of the number of donors. Because my average donor was like you guys, at like 10, 15 bucks a pop. And he was getting the maximum $1,000 from every PC, from every business, from the real estate group at Tampa, the real estate group at Jacksonville, the real estate group at Miami, the real estate group. So yes, right now you're right. Republicans are heavily funded by big business because it's in their interest to keep things how they are. And change is hard, change is scary. And a $15 minimum wage might take a half buck out of their own pockets. Even though data shows that it won't. But they think it will. And this also sounds weird. But Republicans love to prey on the American dream. Why should we not raise taxes on the rich? Because maybe someday you're going to be rich. And you don't want that when you're rich, right? And it works. That kind of messaging works. I think I can't remember what the numbers were, but if we raised taxes on only the billionaires in the United States, there's like 500 of them, we could pay for all of Medicare for all and not reduce the number of billionaires by 1. What the hell are we doing? Because maybe one day I'll hit that Mega Millions and I'll be a billionaire. No, you won't. But everyone believes one day that they will, and they prey on that. That American dream that we've been taught since first grade. So that's why we're going to resist taxing the rich. Before Ronald Reagan, the highest tax bracket was like 70-something%. And it worked fine. And it doesn't mean you're getting taxed 70 cents on the dollar on every dollar you make. People don't realize that. It's a tiered tax system. You only get taxed 70% on anything like above $10 million. You're making $10 million. Congratulations. Like, do your fair share. Goddamn. What else? Yes.
I'm incredibly optimistic about 2024. Ohio, Kansas, Michigan, California,
Wisconsin.
Every time you give people the chance to vote, they reject what the Republicans are saying. They are just not buying it. And so I put a question to you. 2024 is going to be a presidential election to everybody. Name me the Democratic state from 2020 that's going to flip Republican. We are headed towards a landslide in 2024. We had a problem in 2022. We need to be more aggressive. That's why people have pens on their chairs today. Give your pens away. We have hundreds of them right there. That's what this board is doing. But I put the question back to you as a seasoned political operative. Name me the state that the Republicans are going to flip in 2024.
It's all going to depend on Florida.
Yeah.
No.
No, just follow me here,
Okay.
In 2020, we forced the Republicans to spend over $100 million in Florida. If we had not done that, they would have spent that $100 million in Georgia, in Nevada, and Arizona. We lose those 3 states, Donald Trump is still president. If we do not put up a fight in 2024, that $100 million, $120 million that they would have to sink into Florida, instead will go to those other states. Georgia was razor thin. Nevada was razor thin. Arizona was razor thin. So we have to put up that fight. We have to come out to vote. We have to show strength and momentum here in Florida to force them to spend that money. Now, they're going to be forced already to defend Rick Scott, but they know he's an infinite pool of money on his own. So we have to make them come here and waste their money to protect the other states. Because Georgia's going to be tough. Wisconsin is going to be tough. Nevada's going to be tough. Arizona's going to be tough. Pennsylvania's going to be tough. So we have to make them waste their money here so we can protect those others. Does it mean that, wasting their money here means we're going to flip Florida? I don't know. It's going to be hard. But if we come out on par and we vote just like we did in 2018 and 2020. In 2018, we voted at 66% as Democrats. 2020, we voted at 75%. If we can up that a little bit, as you said, we can always be better. If we can up that a little bit, those polls will show that it is far closer here in Florida than they realize, and they'll be forced to come down here to defend and not have the resources in other states. So it's going to be important to work just as hard here in Florida. Yes?
In districts you said in Florida that we can flip, the one thing we have here is human power in terms of phones. Obviously, we can't.
Donna Deegan and the crap out of it.
We can't canvass in South Florida, but we do have a lot of people willing to work phones, write postcards. Will we have those districts' information to be able to do what we can from here to try and flip those other Florida districts?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys already have the slides I have. Anything bringing is a target for 2024. I can talk with Sue or Bob, and once we have candidates in those districts, I can let you know who they are, what their websites are, how to help them, how to get in touch with their campaigns. HD 38, which is not too far away. I think it's in Osceola, Orange counties. We have a great candidate. Her name is Sarah Henry. She barely lost in 2022. She's taking another swing. That's a district we should win. District 113, I think that's the Basade guy, that one, or 106, he's either of those two. That one we lost by 242 votes, that we should win by 10%. We have a great candidate there. His name is Joe Saunders. He's the executive, or one of the executive directors of Equality Florida. He's a former representative, and he's taking another swing at it to get rid of one of the worst members of the legislature. But we're still missing candidates in a lot of these districts. But yeah, I can get with Sue or Bob and get information of some of the candidates and how to get in touch with their campaigns to help. Yeah, Sue, you got a question?
One of the things I was concerned about, when I actually scheduled you, is the economy, what's going on in the economy in Florida. Does big business and others, that are contributing to DeSantis' campaign, are they going to now look at what's happening to Disney, to the cruise lines, to other businesses? And also, we keep giving money to the insurance industry. I don't understand that. So, I'm losing my.
Yeah, I got kicked off of mine too till I had to get a new roof that was only 13 years old. So, I got a couple things to say about that. What's one big Republican mantra? If it's not happening to me, I don't care. Anyone who's not Disney does not care. But they have learned from Disney, I just have to be quiet. I just have to suppress what I want to say and just go along. Again, sounding very 1930s Germany. Just be quiet and go along, and it won't happen to me until it does. So for them, keeping the status quo is in their best financial interest, and they measure everything by that dollar, by that bottom line. Now the insurance, you guys remember last time I was here, that's all I talked about. Because I was running for CFO, head of the Office of Insurance Regulation. Since then, it has only gotten worse. They've had another multi-billion-dollar bailout to Florida insurance companies. More Florida insurance companies have left the state. AAA has stopped renewing, Farmers is leaving, UPC left, and there's kind of no endpoint in sight. Who were Jimmy Petronus's, my opponent's, biggest contributors in 2022? The insurance companies. It's in their best interest to just kind of cruise along. Now the legislature has held 2 special sessions to try to fix property insurance. And when people come back and say, what measurable effects have we had? They say, oh, we have to give it like 3 or 4 years to really start seeing some effects. And then when somebody asked, what if I can't afford to live here in 3 or 4 years? I can't remember which one, but a Republican state senator said, just move. Sell your house and move out of Florida. That was their response. Because if it's not affecting him personally, he doesn't care. So right now, unfortunately, there kind of isn't an endpoint in sight with the insurance prices in Florida. On average, our rates have doubled in the past 3 years alone, and we're now more than twice the national average. The Florida insurance market has been called the worst in the United States, and it's only getting worse. Now, a lot of this, when I was in the Navy, we used to do what's called root cause analysis. Like if something bad happens, you ask why until you can't ask why anymore, and you get that root cause. If you go back, a lot of this started when Rick Scott was governor. And a lot of these insurance laws were changed early in his tenure to benefit some wealthy groups that needed only a small amount of capital to start insurance companies with written into their charters certain golden parachute clauses that were destined to fail from the start. And we are all seeing that domino effect. And all of his buddies that started these insurance companies are seeing these golden parachute windfalls at the expense of Florida homeowners. So we are in a world of trouble right now. And we have a CFO who doesn't seem to care, who just screams about Farmers is leaving because they're woke. That is a direct quote from Jimmy Petronus. Define woke for me. And one quick more thing. And as we mentioned, with what's going on with Disney, with what's going on with the Don't Say Gay, with what's going on with slavery wasn't so bad, we are seeing an economic effect. Major conferences and conventions have been canceling and leaving Florida. I think they've already showed over a $20 million impact on Orlando alone, and it's only going to get worse. Yes?
Adam, thank you very much for the presentation this morning. One of the things I wanted to point out, in American politics, money begets power. And I'd like to know where the hell the deep pocket Democrats are. We have to find out who they are. The second point I have is messaging. The Democrats don't have any kind of a decent message. Not like the mega Republicans or whatever you want to call them. And thirdly, let's stop calling them Republicans. These people are domestic terrorists who are trying to take away from us, our community, the community benefits that, and the society benefits that we have. So let's start calling them what they really are, domestic terrorists, not Republicans.
So I can take these as they came. So the first one you asked, where are those deep pocket Democrats? They do exist. I have a list of a shit ton of them. But just like everybody else, they've been watching the news and seeing the polls for the past couple of years saying Florida was a lost cause. Everyone I call, billionaires, we'd sit and have lunch and talk. Why would I want to flush my money down the drain? They are just as susceptible to this messaging as anybody else. Believe it or not, Florida is one of the most politically active donor states in the country. Every other state comes to Floridians to get their contributions. And these big Democratic donors give tons of money to candidates all over the country, but they stopped in 2022. I courted a Democratic donor for months. Phone calls, lunches, long conversations. After months, this guy was worth over $1 billion. He said, you know what, you tried so hard, I'll just, as a token, he could have funded my whole campaign, could have given $250,000 to our political committee. He gave me $800. Why should I flush my money down the drain? Right before I announced I was running, I called a former Democratic state senator. He literally laughed at me. I'm not going to spend a dime on you. Why would anybody else? Because they've been susceptible to that same rhetoric you see on Fox News, Florida's a lost cause. But they do exist. What was the second one?
Messaging.
Messaging, oh my God, you're right, we suck at messaging. We suck, we're terrible. We cannot stay on message. Hopefully you guys remember when I was here last time. Except for answering questions, all I talked about was property insurance. We got comments all over the state that my campaign was the most message disciplined of any of the Democratic campaigns. If you talk to Charlie, he would talk about 15 topics the first time you saw him, and you talk about 15 other topics the next time you saw him. We need to have that message discipline. And I hate to say it, but credit where credit's due, Rick Scott is one of the best politicians when it comes to message discipline. He will bring every question back to jobs. Everything's about jobs. We create jobs. We got jobs. Now governor jobs. Now jobs. More jobs. We have jobs. That's all it's about. And what did James Carville say? It's the economy, stupid. Talk about things that people care about. I saw a graphic from the 2022 election. Out of everything that voters cared about, Republicans talked about 3 things. It's like the economy, jobs, and I can't remember what the third one was. It was also about money. But each one of those polled, about 30%, 28 to 30% of the people cared about those things as either their number 1 or number 2 driver. Democrats, we talked about 13 different things. I'm not kidding, none of which polled higher than 6%. What the hell are we doing? It's the economy, stupid. Talk about what is important to people and stay on topic. So, and then the third one was, right, as soon as I filed to run, big press release from Jimmy Petronis' office, we don't want the socialist radical left agenda coming from Adam Hattersley, even though I'm one of the more fiscally conservative Democrats in the state. And you're right, we cannot be afraid to do that same thing. I call them the reckless right. Because radical, or that word's become, it's overused.
but the reckless right, it's chaos. What they're doing is chaotic. And we can't be afraid to wear our pro-road t-shirts and call them out on their same bullshit, just like you're suggesting. You're right, we have to. Because power perceived is power achieved. And being, well, it's not so bad, well, I'm gonna talk about this, I'm gonna be meek. Doesn't matter if your ideas are great, you're seen as weak. And in, unfortunately, modern politics, it's almost like Spanish 1940s, the strong man is gonna win. Power perceived is power achieved. So we can't be afraid to use that kind of rhetoric. It's what has made them popular, and we can't be afraid to use those tactics, yes.
Well, can you hear me? Two things concern me, aside from the fact that your parents watch. Why is that? One thing is, as we know, perception is reality. I'm concerned that although Biden is 3 years older than Trump, he portrays himself as less energetic than Trump. And I think that that's important. And I think it's going to affect people's voting. And of course, DeSantis is younger. The other thing that concerns me is Kamala Harris. I was enthusiastically for her 4 years ago, and now I feel kind of cool to her. She was tamped down by the administration because she had some very bad interviews. She just didn't come off right, and she's still not coming off well. Now she has one issue, aside from the fact that she is black, and that's good. The issue is abortion. And I don't know if that's going to make her popular on the ticket with Biden, who's sleeping. So, I don't want to be pessimistic, but these things concern me. I will always vote Democrat, and I will be working for Biden, but these are concerns that are reality, and perception is reality.
So I got a couple of quick comments on it. So one, yeah, Joe Biden is 800 years old. But Donald Trump is 798 years old. And the Republicans are also really good at this. What about our emails? Hunter's laptop. Benghazi. Why? And then we have, Trump with the classified documents, with the insurrection. Oh, why are you weaponizing the DOJ against your political enemies? What's good for the goose is not good for the gander on the Republican side. They're extraordinarily hypocritical in that. So yeah, they portray Joe as older and sleepy. Trump is like 20 minutes younger. So I find that hypocrisy a little interesting. Again, especially when it comes to, what about her emails, lock her up, blah, blah, blah. When nothing has been shown through investigation from that, but Trump is under how many indictments right now? So we have to make sure that whatever attacks are coming our way, we have to show them their hypocrisy. We cannot be afraid to punch back. I think I said this last time I was here. In World War I, one side started digging trenches, right? The other side didn't say, oh, well, that's the enemy, so I'm not going to use that tactic. They're like, oh, shit, they're not getting shot. I'm going to use that tactic. We can't be afraid to use a tactic just because the other side is using it, because what they're doing is working. And on the second, I know this room is full of strong Democrats that are going to vote for Democrats no matter what. But a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents who typically vote Democrat, if they are not excited for the candidate, they just simply won't vote. Everyone, and we all know people who do that, and every person who does that, it's not just not a vote for us, it's a vote for the Republicans. So even though I'm not excited about Kamala, I'm not excited about Adam Hattersley, I'm not excited about whomever, so I'm just not going to vote no. You got to tamp that shit down, just like we were talking about before about the parties are the same. A no vote from a Democrat is the same as a vote for a Republican. So if you don't like book banning, in my county, due to the ambiguous laws how it's written, I kid you not, Hillsborough County,
has just decided to take certain parts of Shakespeare out of high school. What the hell? If you disagree with that, then I don't care if you're not excited about Kamala Harris or you're not excited about Adam Hattersley. Get your ass out and vote, because you know the Republicans will.
I just was wondering, I've seen a lot of David Hogg on talk shows about his new group that he's forming. And you were talking about we've got to find candidates. I know Maxwell Frost is one of the young people that's part of that group. I was just wondering, what are you hearing around the state or other places that you go? Because I'm thinking about donating to his group.
This is a tricky one. There are a lot of groups that are asking to raise money to help recruit candidates all over the state, a lot. How many candidates have any of those groups recruited so far?
Well, I don't know, he mentions Maxwell Frost.
Because Maxwell was already involved, was already a congressman.
Right.
But new candidates so far, not just that group, granted that's a new group, but DECs, Ruth's List, dozens of other groups so far have recruited 0 candidates. Why? These groups, they can do a lot of good. And with names like Maxwell Frost and David Hogg, they're gonna get some of that attention, which is great. And anytime they bring out a candidate, they're gonna get attention, which is great. Absolutely, donate to them. Personally, I would find an individual candidate that excites you just as much and give directly to them, because the money will be spent in a more effective way of getting people elected. And I'm not saying don't donate to David Hogg and Maxwell Frost's group, because they're doing a great thing. They're trying to get younger people more involved. And if we get younger candidates, if we get younger people talking about politics more, they are going to come out and vote. I just saw a thing before I came up here. In 2020 presidential election, if only people 25 and younger had voted, how would it have turned out? 41 states would have gone blue. 41! Only 9 states would have gone Republican. And that group, who votes overwhelmingly Democratic, is the smallest group of voters. They make up like 40-something% of the population, but like less than 10% of our voters. If we activate them, we win everything. So getting those groups, go ahead and donate to them and show them support. Because if we can get that excitement in that younger group, we will win.
Right, and they're terrified about what's going to happen to the planet. Do you have any numbers on young people that are coming of age, voting age, this next election?
I do not, I'm sorry.
I think we should know that.
I'm hoping somebody does, but I do not.
Thank you.
Like 7, 8, maybe. No, that wasn't even a little time. And not every song hits. Yes?
I think that a lot of the Democrats' problem really started way back with the passivity of Al Gore not fighting for the state of Florida when they had the hanging chads.
Oh,
Okay? It made the Democrats look very, very, very weak, in my opinion. I agree with this gentleman right here. I think it's going to be a backlash. I think people who are Republican are fed up with what's going on with women's rights, with everything that's going on. Even though they may be silent, not everybody's a Trumper. Everybody's for Trump. And the other thing is, I want to say that I'm an Auburn graduate, and I'm embarrassed by what Tommy Tuberville is doing.
Oh my God.
He's killing our military, and I think really it's what's going on is it's coming from Trump to weaken the military. So if something ever happens, we won't have the leadership in our military to fight back.
Does everybody know what's going on with Senator Auburn? Okay. How insane is that? For the party that says they're for law and order and they support our troops, for one senator to hold up the promotions of, over 100 senior leaders of our military. You know, I saw something else, and I hope you are, I pray that you are right, that people are fed up and they come out. in 2024 as a major referendum on the insanity of the modern McCarthyism that we see with the Republican Party. You know, I saw another stat. During the pandemic, 2020, before the election, every single Democrat in Congress voted for Trump's COVID relief package, even though it helped Trump, but it helped the United States. Biden's economic stimulus package, even though it helped the United States, every Republican voted against it, even though that vote hurt the United States. There's another difference between Democrats and Republicans for it. We still voted with the opposition when it was right, and they voted against the opposition, even though it would have helped Americans. So do what's right, not what's political. Even Ronald Reagan said, I want my advisors to tell me to do what's right, not what's political. And we have completely flipped the switch on that. Ron DeSantis only does that which is political. All right, what else? What else we got? Yes, here in the front row. Is my time up?
Yeah.
The question and answer part is the most fun part. But thank you guys so much for having me. I always like coming here. I'm going to read the floor
Good morning. Morning. There was a letter on your chair when you came in, along with those nifty new pens. What we'd like you to do, since we thought Adam was going to mostly talk about insurance, is sign that letter to Jimmy Pedronis and drop it on this front table here next to my phone, and the club will mail them all in a batch. So he'll get about 200 letters in a few days telling him what an idiot he is. Thank you for doing that. Now, for the buzz. Here at What's the Buzz, we can hardly keep up with the torrent of news/crazy of all the shenanigans of our dueling Florida men running for president. Let's over to Fox News for the latest. Next slide, please. Yeah, I know, you've already seen this a couple of times. Our own governor is missing in action somewhere. He was last seen leaving the scene of a traffic accident, extolling the benefits of slavery, promising to slit the throats of the deep state bureaucrats. But somebody said he needed a reset, so we wonder how that's going. Next slide, please. Somebody's had a nasty couple of months. Time to reset the reset. But Ron, what is the problem? Next slide. Oh, we forgot. It's wokeness. That has nothing to do with trashing women's rights, driving away immigrants who sustain the economy, hating anyone with color and with pride. Next slide. Leading a state with skyrocketing housing costs, a deteriorating environment, high inflation. But hey, Ron, while you were gone, we changed the state motto. Next slide, please. We also adopted a new state song. Next slide. Well, it turns out that actual humans aren't the only ones good at writing songs. There's artificial intelligence, which right now is appearing way smarter than some of you. Here's what AI did in mere seconds with a request to enrich Trump's life story with the theme from Gilligan's Island. Next slide. I know you'd like me to sing this, but I'm just going to talk in a few snippets. You got the two in your heads, right? Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of Trump's demise. From a golden throne to prison bars, his fall we can't disguise. As the tale concludes, we see the consequences clear. No matter who you are, my friend, the law remains sincere. Let's learn from history's lessons told to seek a brighter day where truth and justice guide us all as we move on our way. That's AI, folks. See you later. And by the way, for Donald, we have a new campaign yard sign. Next slide, please. And with that, it's time for both of us to leave the stage. I'll be walking back to my chair, but you, Don, Last slide, please.
I hope you come to breakfast next week. I hope you come to the Sumter Square on the 24th. And until then, see you later.